And welcome back to a Film Ireland podcast, first in a while. We've kind of been on a long hiatus of just doing superhero ones, but we are back. There has been a casualty of said war. Jonathan is dead, literally and figuratively. No, he's moved on to better things, which is to say he's now doing the In Conversation portion of the Film Ireland podcast family, so listen out for that. And if you want to hear me and him talking, you can always still look at Quantum of Friendship. But don't, because it's terrible. In any case, replacements are needed, and for this phase 3 of the podcast, if you will, given that a certain Marvel film is also out now, we welcome Sarah Cullen to the Film Marvel podcast. Hello, Sarah.
Hello, Richard. Thanks for having me.
No problem, person that I know in real life. I guess we'll get straight on the news, unless you want to introduce yourself a bit more and say what you do in life. You don't have to, we can just move straight on.
I don't mind. Yeah, I am a literature student, I suppose, but film would be one of my serious interests where
Good.
Yeah, that's about it, really.
Excellent, succinct, to the point. Good, very economical. Some sad news in the world of animation. A Studio Ghibli death has occurred. Sarah?
Yeah, actually, two sort of...
Oh, two, sorry, yes.
No, the second one isn't a Ghibli death, but just two deaths in the world of Japanese film. Kiko Futaki, she was an animator on a lot of Ghibli films, Princess Mononoke, Spirited Away, My Neighbor Totoro, amongst others, and she was also one of the animators on Akira.
All right.
So she's done a lot of work, and sadly she died there during the month. She's only 58 years old, so I don't think anyone expected that.
No, that's
very sad. And the second death was of a voice actress she did the voices of Sora on Digimon. And
that is a throwback reference that
yes.
I don't get, but okay.
Oh, okay.
I recall Digimon like vaguely. I wouldn't know who Sora is.
Well,
is that the main character? Or
not the main character,
no, okay.
the main female character, I guess.
Right.
But yeah, and she also did the voice of Minnie Mouse in the Japanese version of Kingdom Hearts.
Oh.
Yeah, so she was Yuko Mizutani, and she was only 51. So there's some weird, sad early deaths going on in
that
Japan.
is unusual.
Yeah.
It's kind of been a year for that though, hasn't it? Like with Bowie
yes.
and everyone else that's died in the last 5 months.
So it's only fair, really. That
the real epidemic is death.
Yes.
So moving on from that to tonally completely different news that interests me and only me. They have cast Lara Croft for the new Tomb Raider reboot, and it's shockingly not Daisy Ridley, which everyone thought it would be. It is Alicia Vikander, which, as people have pointed out, is weird because it's the Angelina Jolie thing again, where she got really big in the indie film scene, got an Oscar, and then her first thing after getting an Oscar is to do Tomb Raider.
Oh.
Which, I mean, I'm looking forward to the reboot, but then again, I am a unapologetic, disgusting fanboy. So, but I mean, it can't be as bad as the old Tomb Raider. You've seen the Tomb Raider movies, have you? At any point in your life?
Yeah, I'm actually pretty sure I saw the first one in cinema.
Yeah, me too. I saw both of them in cinema.
Well, yeah.
Like they're great in hindsight, but they're really terrible films, and it's the weird kind of pre 9/11 high camp.
True.
I don't know. The new one should be good.
Is there someone else fairly big in the first one who's like the bad
Daniel
guy?
Craig's in it, yeah.
Okay.
Daniel Craig and Ian Glenn are both in that one. Then the second one, like, it's Jared Butler and no one else of note. Oh, Ciarán Hinds in the second one, actually. Ciarán Hinds, who in interviews since was like, oh, what are we doing? Terrible choices. And then he was in the Hitman sequel. I was like, what are you doing, Ciarán Hinds? You don't need this, and at least you don't like it, so what do you... Ugh. Hypocrites, all of them. But yeah, Alicia Vikander, good actress. Liked her a lot in Ex Machina. She was fine in... what was she? Man from U.N.C.L.E. Oh, Danish Girl too, yeah. Danish Girl was... Actually, yeah, she was the best thing in Danish Girl. I think she deserved that Oscar, but she deserved it more for Ex Machina, I feel. Speaking of video game films, we have finally gotten a trailer for Assassin's Creed, starring Michael Fassbender and Marion Cotillard. I think it looks pretty good. You have not seen it and cannot contribute to this conversation.
No, sorry.
I just feel like... It's weird, that... Because did you see that Macbeth film last year?
No, actually didn't. I probably should have, but I didn't.
It's I don't know. It's weird. It's weird that in a year where Fassbender played Macbeth, he didn't get any nominations for it because he was good, but he got Steve Jobs instead, which is whatever. Okay. But it's the same director, weirdly, as that for this, and also Cotillard's obviously in that one too. I mean, video game movies are rarely good. This one at least has the aesthetic right. The trailer is good, apart from the choice of music, which is awful because it's Kanye West for no reason other than I assume they're like, what if kids don't like this very popular franchise? Get them in rap music. So yeah, that should be good, hopefully. We are really just like plowing through news here.
Yeah.
The next one you can at least talk about was what you brought up to me, which was the trailer for a film called The Daughter, an Australian film, I think. I'm going to assume by the fact that the cast are all Australian, it's probably Australian.
Yeah, I think that is fairly good guess. I think it's a first-time director, so he probably is shooting where he lives. Maybe a good idea if he
makes sense.
The movie is apparently based on Henrik Ibsen's play *The Wild Duck*, but just the trailer itself I just really, really liked it. I saw it in the cinema before. I think Everybody Wants Some, possibly.
Okay.
So,
which we'll get to later.
Yeah, we'll get to later. But it was just nice to see a trailer that did not give away anything. Now I've watched the trailer 2-3 times and I still have no clue what's actually going to happen. It's a family drama.
Mm-hmm. There's some kind of dark secret hidden there somewhere, but it's really unclear what it is. Because even the title, I feel like you said to me that the title's kind of the biggest spoiler. I don't know that it is, because I can't. There's a couple of lines in the trailer that imply a certain thing could be happening, and if that's the case, then yes, the title means that probably. But there's so many different threads being alluded to in that one trailer. In 3 minutes, it feels like it's a full season of a TV show almost that they're advertising. Yeah. It's really, I'd watch it, and also Anna Torv's in it. I love Anna Torv. She's not in much these days. That's cool.
Yeah, and there's a lot of big names in it.
Yeah, like Sam Neill,
Miranda Otto, Jeffrey Rush.
Oh, Jeffrey Rush, yeah.
And there's also I think his name is Paul Schneider. I don't think he's a relation of the Schneiders, but he was Mark in the first two seasons of Parks and Recreation.
Right.
Which are the 2 seasons everyone dislikes, but I love. Because...
Are you implying, Sarah, that you have contrary opinions to the most kind of popular thoughts on things?
That
could be interesting.
That is a slight on my character. No, but it is very true. He is sort of the straight guy who, he's quite boring. He doesn't even seem to realise that everything that's going on around him is insane. Yeah. And I think people didn't really find that very interesting. I think that's maybe why the first 2 seasons weren't as successful. But I kind of like the fact that, he's the one guy who has to be normal amidst chaos. And I think he did that pretty well. That's a hard role to do. I mean, that actually requires a lot more restraint as an actor than just to bring into chaos. That's a fair point. Yeah, I haven't seen him in anything else, so I'm like, here he is. He's still alive. It's good.
In this strange film that we couldn't possibly describe the plot of. Yeah,
exactly.
It's I think it's an excellent kind of mood piece setter, that trailer, because I like you, I have no idea what's happening in that movie, but it looks vaguely unsettling and kind of creepy, and especially given that if it is shot in Australia, which you'd expect to be kind of quite bright and sunny, it's all very kind of washed out looking, and
absolutely,
it looks really good. I will definitely check that one out. I suppose one more bit of not even casting news, but maybe casting news. There has been endless talk this week or last month, I suppose, really, if Craig is in or out for Bond. I think it was the Daily Mail ran that story that he turned down 68 million, one of those figures, to do 2 more of them. Which, if it's true, I have the utmost respect for the man, because that really shows that he was not doing this for money. He was doing this for I hate saying doing this for the art of Bond movies, but doing it because he actually felt something decent about it. I hope he did turn down that much money, because that's amazing. The bookies stopped taking bets on Tom Hiddleston being the next one, which made everyone kind of go, someone somewhere knows something and has told someone. Elba is still up for it, apparently. And then, of course, Gillian Anderson was quite vocal on Twitter trying to get the whole Jane Bond thing going. I think it would be amazing if they cast her. I mean, I don't think they will. I think we're getting to the point now where we'll probably get a female Doctor Who in the near future. I think a black Bond is definitely possible in the near future. I don't think they're ready for a woman yet, especially given what we'll talk about in a minute. That I think, the Bond franchise, they can afford a flop now and again, because it's a thing that can constantly keep rebirthing itself, and it doesn't matter if a few of them fail. Like the Dalton ones didn't do well at the box office. The Lazenby one didn't do well at the box office. I think everyone hated the last Brosnan one, and it made money though, I suppose. Anything. So I think they could risk a woman. I personally would love the Bond franchise to just go completely serialized. Just get whatever director wants to do it at that time. Let them cast who they want. None of this adhering to sort of actor contracts. And I don't think you need that. I mean, I guess for the sake of branding, you need that. But so who would your choice be, do you think?
I think I would like to see Idris Elba.
Yeah.
There should at some point be a female Bond.
Like Halle Berry's character in the Die Another Day.
I guess so, maybe.
He was awful.
I honestly, as much as I would think it would be great to see, that is a pipe dream that's not going to happen for another 20 years. Or,
probably.
Yeah, whatever. But no, I think Idris Elba, he's just good. He's just really good at what he does, and it would be great. I think it would be really good to see a Cockney Bond. I think that is as big a step as having a person of color playing Bond, you know?
You see, weirdly, I feel like I have no problem with them completely playing with the race and the gender of Bond. I feel like you need that classism, though. I think that needs to... Because
possibly, yeah.
I feel like the film... Not that it wouldn't work, but I feel like they'd have to spend too much time writing around it if it was Cockney Bond, like, going to these soirees and tuxedos, and just... It would...
You're a fan of Kingsman, right?
Yes.
That's sort of... Cockney Bond a little bit, maybe not.
But even that, it's Cockney Bond with
Bond,
but it's still performative kind of gentleman kind of character. The whole point at the end of it is him pretending to be, I think Sam Mendes came out and said that he's not doing the next one, which I think is probably good given how it turned out like. But I think he has some kind of insider knowledge, and he's like, it's not going to be who you think it is, the next Bond. So I guess talks are happening, and some decision has been made. People are saying it could be Jack O'Connell, which would kind of go with your Cockney Bond idea, and I think that's a good choice, but I also feel like it's too close to Craig. I think it's another kind of big, broody, thuggish kind of guy, which is like, he's a great actor, Jack O'Connell, but I don't know if they should go for a Craig 2.0. That's why Hiddleston, I think, is a really interesting choice, because he's very kind of classically trained, very British, very posh.
And I think he is sort of more closer to the original idea.
Yeah, so kind of taller, wiry, sort of just a person you would expect to be a classist dick, essentially.
Yeah, and I mean, you kind of expect Craig to sort of get his knuckles dirty kind of thing.
He has a face that looks like it's been through many fights. So that'll hopefully get some actual news in the near future. In the meantime, I believe you saw Lemonade. Speaking of females in films.
Yes, I did. I think it's good. So I don't know that I can sort of be that enlightening about it. It's lots of sort of, some of them are quite disparate scenes. Some of them kind of, there's obviously also themes going through it about like being a black woman in America today and historically. A lot of very beautiful scenes in woodland of like impeccably dressed women and girls. And there's also scenes of Beyonce smashing cars as she runs down packed modern day city. So there's a lot of very crazy things going on, and a lot of sort of experimental stuff as well. I'd sort of term it as being sort of like Malick-esque, but whereas, you know, Malick as a white male in a world where white males tend to, you know, get their way, where he talks whimsically about how hard it is to be a man or
a rich white man.
It's like, well, you actually have someone who comes from a disempowered background talking about the struggles to actually have a voice, to get heard in America. So there's something going on there. Whereas, so even if you're not crazy about the Malick aesthetic, as I wouldn't be, I still kind of saying, well, you've got a point there. You have been marginalised. You have been in one of the worst positions as a group of people for hundreds of years. So actually I might sit back and listen to you, because, you know, it's about time I do. It's nice.
I still find it bizarre that we're sitting in a day and age when you can say, discussing the Malick aesthetic of something created by Beyonce. Like, this was 10 years ago, I'd be like, what? That doesn't make any sense.
There you go.
I feel like the things I've heard about it, you've actually kind of sold me on just there, the way you described it, because I heard people describing it that it was kind of a weird version of feminism, that it wasn't. It took how did I hear it described? It was like, they were saying that it kind of took as its base point a significantly less problematic world than we actually live in. That the kind of the angle she's coming from with it sort of assumes a certain level of pre-existing equality or privilege for everyone anyway, and that's why it's not like irrelevant what she's talking about, but it still kind of stems from a very specific background that I think, kind of in keeping the Malick thing, I suppose, is sort of this kind of wealthy, slightly privileged background. And admittedly, she's still got a different voice, and it's like an interesting voice to have on it, but it is still not for every. I don't know. Having not seen it, I can't really feel like I can talk about it. But.
It's a fair point. You know, I know, isn't it like Bell Hooks has come out with a big.
That's what it was. Bell Hooks actually said about it. Yes.
And obviously, I'm sure there's loads of things you could nitpick, and not even nitpick, but actually come out and criticize about the film. Beyonce is certainly not underprivileged herself, so you could obviously say, why should she be the mouthpiece for genuinely disempowered women when she is not one of them herself? But I suppose, you need a starting point.
No, I agree with that. Yeah, exactly. Because how many other like prominent sort of black voices are there in mainstream culture at this point? So yeah, exactly. It needs to be a starting point. So yeah, I think that's a fair assessment by two white people of this.
That's it, yeah. I think
in
we
a different
really have
continent.
the knowledge here.
Well, speaking of representations of women in culture, Ghostbusters is almost out, and I don't think we've talked about this in the podcast before. Me and John might have at some point said briefly that, it's a pile of shit, this whole nonsense debacle around it. It is just bizarre. That I know, I feel we're hitting a sort of tipping point with these 80s remakes anyway. That I remember like RoboCop came out and everyone was like, this is just a terrible idea, it shouldn't exist. And that was actually an okay film. There's probably something else to out in the near future that's also an 80s remake. And I still want to see that ultimate reality where they announce this film and it is just, as the joke goes, Jonah Hill, whoever else. It's just an all-male remake and people would still be angry about it, but I feel like it would sort of come and go without any problem. But because it's women and the feminist agenda taking over Hollywood, suddenly there is just so much sort of digital ink being spilled over this one and endless videos and some people, what's his name, saying he won't review it now. It's just nonsense. Absolute nonsense. Because I've never seen the original Ghostbusters for one thing, so I have no horse in this race to start with. I'll probably see the new one partially out of just spite to the people that are just trying to make it fail.
No, absolutely.
But also because everyone's like, the trailer's so terrible. Have you seen a Paul Feig movie? Like, the trailers are always terrible. Spy had a dreadful trailer. That's one of my favourite films of the last year. It was great. Bridesmaids, terrible trailer. Really funny film.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Go.
I agree completely. And actually, I've seen the trailer twice, and I laughed both times. Maybe I have a terrible...
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't laugh at all. I actually think it is a terrible trailer, but I still want to see the film anyway.
Yeah, well, I can't... The first time, I think I actually quite liked their double take on Let's Go.
That was good, yeah.
That was good.
That was funny.
And then the end, which obviously, as someone pointed out, this is a masculine voice saying this, so that's why I laughed. The end when Chris Hemsworth is showing them his design is these are the boobs. I can make them bigger if you like, and it's like I laughed a lot.
Yeah, that's fair. Okay. That's fair.
But like as you say, I did not see Bridesmaids for years because I actually don't even know if I saw the trailer. I heard people say it's the male version, the female version of The Hangover.
Yeah, that put me off it too.
Well, honestly, I didn't even see the male version. So,
yeah, me either.
And I went to see Spy out of no particular hope for it. A slow news day, let's go to see a movie. I laughed all the way through it. Freaks and Geeks only lasted 13 episodes. It's one of the best shows. I love it.
Oh, did he do that too? I didn't know that.
Yeah, he's the director of that.
Okay.
And if not for nothing, I love him as Mr. Poole in Sabrina. He's the teacher. Yes, that is him.
That never... Oh, okay. Wow. Right.
So I know he didn't direct Sabrina as far as I know, but...
You're full of 90s references today.
I know. I think Paul Feig is great, and yes, you wouldn't always even know it because he's not that great a marketer or whatever. Or his team isn't.
Yeah.
It's obviously not him. He's not involved. So it's amazing as well because this is just a trailer. How can you be that angry at something that isn't even a real thing yet?
I will say I kind of agree with the point that people said that. Okay, I don't agree with the vitriol existing, but I understand that they kind of poked the bear with this one in that when they announced this film initially, they didn't announce it as we're making a Ghostbusters reboot. By the way, it's an all-female cast. It was they announced it before they cast it as intentionally being an all-female reboot. Like, that was probably a mistake.
Okay.
Like, even if the cast had been... I don't feel they need to do this, but if the cast had been, like, half male, half female, for, quote-unquote balance sake, this mightn't have been as bad. I feel they definitely, either willingly or not, antagonized a very vocal and prominent sort of backlash against feminism that exists online these days, which was a mistake. And the fact that the trailer... I really know the trailer wasn't good because damn it, they're just feeding the flames here. Yeah, and it's a weird time for Hollywood and movies and women because that whole thing during the week of them saying that Wonder Woman is now the first film directed by a woman that'll have $100 million budget. Yeah. That was kind of shocking to hear, honestly, and I really hope that one doesn't fail too, which it really could given how dire Batman Superman was. But she was investing in it, so whatever. But yeah, so Ghostbusters does terribly, and then Wonder Woman does terribly. like, what happens? Like, where do we go from here? Because it feels like Hollywood's actually been trying in the last couple of years, I think, to get women involved more.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. Actually, I don't know if you brought this up on previous podcasts. There's been a big meta-analysis of dialogue throughout like thousands of Hollywood films done.
No?
It was released, I think it was probably last 2 months. And it was looking at the amount of dialogue spoken by women, by men, the age of the men and women speaking it. And I think that there was a rule that to be taken into account, each character had to say at least 10 lines of dialogue, possibly. Like, it couldn't just be guy in the street going, he's over there, or whatever. Unsurprisingly, the results were, yes, men have so much more dialogue.
Shocking.
Yes, and also when women do get to speak, it's under 30s, or the people who get to, the women who get to speak tend to be young and attractive, shockingly as well.
I mean, it's not surprising, but it's still kind of unsettling to hear it when it's that sort of condensed of a thing.
Absolutely. I think one of the things that shows is that, like, even in a film where you might have, say, 2-3 main enough female characters, chances are they're surrounded by like 20 secondary characters who are all male. You might have the good guy, his girlfriend, his mum, his best friend who's male, all their friends, the bad guy, and the bad guy's 20 henchmen. That kind of setup. So, like, honestly, even when you're like, hey, look, there's a good female character in there, you can't complain, we did it, yay. It's like, yeah, and they say 10% of the dialogue. Everything else is said by men. And, like, I think movies like Fury Road have done what other films haven't, is that they actually included, like, women as cannon fodder.
Yeah.
There's women who are just there. Like, they're pretty much 50% of the population of the movie. Whereas most movies, like, okay, they have a couple of good female characters, Leia or whatever in the original Star Wars. Everyone else is male. So I think what Hollywood needs to do is maybe not write so many, not sort of focus solely on, look, we have one main female character, we're doing really good. It's like, look, make half your characters female. Chances are some of them will be good.
Yes. I mean, you'd hope.
Yeah.
But...
in the same way that, like, most of your male characters aren't good, but there's enough of them that some of them are good. So, like, for me, that's where Hollywood needs to go next. Have movies either like add some female henchmen in there, or actually focus on situations where women are there, and maybe you will get good movies.
I mean, yeah, I don't. I sense this won't be a problem that'll be fixed in our lifetimes, but I do hope Ghostbusters does at least. I mean, it's not going to do well. I've already know it's going to fail at the box office. It's going to be well. See, I think it's one of those cases of on like Rotten Tomatoes. It'll be probably, let's say, around, if it's halfway decent, it'll be like a 60% movie on the critical side and like a negative 100 on the fan quote unquote side of things. I just because even if, because they must know at this point it's going to fail. Like, what are their plans? What are they going to do with this?
Yeah.
I don't understand. Like, should they even release it at all at this point?
I don't know. Maybe they can make a sequel and it can be better than the original sequel, and they're not going to do that.
Or didn't Dan Aykroyd say he wants to do an all male also remake just to fight this one again? And then then he wanted to do a Ghostbusters cinematic universe because they're all in vogue these days. I don't know what you do with that. Like, I don't know if that's a single film that has a universe potential to it, but sure. The point is, it's all terrible.
Yeah. And
moving on to reviews. We've kind of been off the air, so to speak, for a while now, so I don't think we'll bother reviewing the likes of Batman, Superman. It's not good. You haven't seen a few of their kind of superhero-y things, so we'll just stick to things that we've both seen, which usually works out best for these conversations. So let's start with Whisky, Tango, Foxtrot, another film in the recent cadre. Is that how you pronounce that word? Or is it cadre? Cadre, yeah, whatever. We're all fancy here. We have degrees. Which, did you see, what is the name of that film from last year? Our Brand is Crisis.
Yes, I did.
You did. Did it occur to you that it's the same film as Whisky, Tango, Foxtrot?
It did occur to me, actually.
Because it feels like, again, back to Hollywood sort of making baby steps towards giving women their own movies. They kind of just made the same movie twice.
Yeah, I agree. Actually, to be fair, I didn't think of them as the same story, but actually I was thinking, like, yeah, here we go, more female empowerment. Sorry, I'll take that back. It's not female empowerment. It's sort of
normalized, like, feminine world.
It's sort of white savior narrative with a female character.
Yeah, because it's white women in traditionally male roles escaping America, because America, it's too hard being privileged, and going to like developing world nations, being like, it's so much better here. And both films are them sort of just kind of going native, I suppose, to a point. And both films also involve Billy Bob Thornton in supporting roles.
That is a good point.
No, I actually really enjoyed Whisky, Tango, Foxtrot, though. I think it's... Again, I hate comparing it just endlessly to Our Brand is Crisis, but it feels like it's the same kind of movie, but I think they had a stronger focus on pointing out the fact that she's a woman doing these things. I felt like Our Brand is Crisis sort of nicely didn't mention that. I didn't feel the need to mention that. But WTF was very, on the whole, very, I think, strong on the whole. Here's men doing journalism, here's women doing it. Whoa, dangerous. And like when she's going off on the road, all the army guys. And I suppose we should probably explain the plot first, quickly. Tina Fey plays a journalist in some rag in New York, I think, or Washington, I can't remember. And her life's going nowhere, and she's sad and depressed with her middle class existence. And then the opportunity to go to, not Baghdad, where is it?
Okay, I wish I could remember now.
Damn it. It wasn't even Iraq, it's Afghanistan, so maybe more wrong saying Baghdad.
It was, because wasn't the whole thing like, it's not getting enough coverage because...
Yeah, because Iraq... God, okay, Afghanistan, anyway. Somewhere in Afghanistan.
Yes.
We are so...
far off country.
First world. So she goes there through journalism and quickly kind of falls into the lifestyle of kind of the hard living, fast living, sort of dangerous journalism combined with the sort of the partying lifestyle of it. And then sort of, it's all about, can she do this? And then she kind of falls in love, or does she? And then she has a rivalry, which she must of course have with the other female character. And but it sort of tries to be progressive. And there is that one really funny joke, is in the trailer too, where she's reporting on the first Iraqi woman, or Afghani woman, I suppose, to get a driving license. This is a very important day of feminism everywhere, and she immediately backs the car into a wall. That's sad for women, and just leaves.
Yeah.
No, that sucks for women. Oh, that's great. It's really funny. Yeah, I think it had a nice balance of being funny but dramatic. I think it. I kind of hate the term dramedy, or whatever you say for those things, but I think they initially sort of play down the dangers of war. It's like it kind of reminds me of that episode of South Park when Jimbo and what's his face are describing Vietnam, and it's all just like water slides and roller coasters. It was a bit like that in places where it's just, look how much fun they're just partying up, and the name keeps coming to me where it is, and it keeps vanishing again. It doesn't matter, whatever city they're in. But also then you get the kind of the more serious moments of like IEDs going off and actual death and danger. And I think it's actually pretty good. I actually really don't like Martin Freeman generally.
Really?
Yeah, I can't stand Martin. I don't know. I can't stand Martin Freeman, and I thought he was really good here. He was kind of playing against type. He was annoying and insufferable, but that was kind of the point of his character for once. It wasn't just what he was like, and there was some nice reverse damseling with that. So good job, movie.
Yes. When it sort of got outside this white saviour narrative thing, I think it did really well. And that was something that Our Brand is Crisis couldn't escape. It was all about this white person coming and, oh no, trying to get over altitude sickness. Oh, will she do it? Honestly, because that's what we care about,
the
apparently.
First 10 minutes of that movie are like a crappy rom-com, and it's really annoying. Like, she does the whole like falling over thing, and it's really weird. Then it segues into like being an actual film again.
Yeah, that's it.
I feel like that film though was quite cynical towards the end, and it didn't really resolve itself in a happy wrap. Like, it kind of feels like she fucked over that country and then just
sort of
couldn't do anything about it.
Yeah,
I suppose it is sort of the white savior thing, but it sort of turns on its head and does the whole whiteness is death almost.
I suppose, but I mean, then the final shot is of her like striding purposefully because she is now going to right the wrongs that she wronged in the first place. So I mean, it's just sort of a weird mess of a film, I think. But
I still kind of find enjoyable, but
like absolutely. And we should probably specify that we were talking about Our Brand Crisis there. Just so Whisky, Tango, Foxtrot. Less.
More consistent. So. I think funnier as well.
Yeah, definitely.
I really enjoyed... Oh my god, we should have done any research in this one. Who played the kind of government official that was trying to chat her up? Who also played Doc Ock in Amazing Spider-Man?
Yeah, I don't know, actually.
What's his name? Damn it to hell. I know it so well. Anyway, he was very funny. I liked his little cameos. I was wondering... I didn't check. I don't know what his nationality is in real life. I assumed he was American. Maybe he's not. So is it some kind of potentially problematic recent performance? I don't know. It's irrelevant. I did think the film on the whole was nicely unpatriotic. It didn't sort of try and go, look at our boys overseas, they're always heroes. It was a bit more, no, they're kind of fuck ups, and
true, yeah.
This whole invasion isn't really great for anyone. So that was kind of nice. I just noticed the last note I have down here, and this which I would have taken back in March, was probably problematic to someone somewhere, but progressive in its lack of progressiveness.
Yeah.
In that they didn't feel the need to overly sort of do the whole... I see, the problem is, it's schizophrenic in that I feel they did address the fact that she's a woman doing a man's job in the man's world an awful lot, but at the same time it didn't sort of drown you in it, even though when she gets back to America, the whole thing of, oh, you're a woman the whole time, I remember her new boss is a woman. And it's like, there's enough of that sort of nonsense that it kind of irked me, but on the whole, I think, like you're saying, like it didn't overly try and make every female character the female character. Someone kind of, we're just kind of background characters, and that's fine.
Absolutely.
And there was no plot, wasn't there? Whatever. It was. I think it was pretty good. I'd recommend it. Above all else, it's still funny. It's a good comedy, and there are some real laugh out loud moments. So yeah. Next up, a Captain America: Civil War, which now, Sarah, over the years we've had many conversations about superhero films.
Yes, we have.
I feel like we probably agreed more on this one than we've had on many of them.
Yeah, which is sort of a shame. Maybe.
Well, no, you still didn't like it that much.
Yes.
So I think it's possibly Marvel's best one to date. I think they did an amazing job of, given just how, on a pitch level, this must look like a mess. Getting that many characters on screen, giving them all adequate screen time, especially given that we just saw Batman Superman in recent months try through the same rough plot arc and fail miserably at it. I think the stakes were set up really early on very well. Whose side was on whose. It made total sense for all those characters to be on their respective sides. Everyone got adequate screen time, I felt. Spider-Man especially, given that they got the rights back to him into production and just had to like shoehorn that sequence in, it felt very organic. Tom Holland is probably the best on-screen Spider-Man so far. It's got a much... I'll stop talking a second. It's got a much better balance of comedy and drama than I think many of them have. Like Winter Soldier, which I do love, I think it's brought down by the moment when they feel they need to inject levity and they just really awkwardly kind of crowbar in jokes, which I don't think work. This one, it was very funny in places. It was also dramatically compelling enough to feel not inert. I do think that the airport, the big Civil War titular airport fight, is a different film because it's kind of like there's drama, stakes, and then it's like this fight is kind of not going to end with anyone dying. Well, that's sort of, I suppose, a bit of a thing happens, but everyone sort of acknowledges that they're not going to kill each other. They're all still friends at the end of the day. So let's just have a bit of a tussle and watch Paul Rudd be great and then move on with the plot. I think it was really good. I think it was great and I enjoyed it and I can't see it again. Sarah, rebuttal.
All right. I agree with some of your points for sure. I know, shocker. I think they did a good job of juggling a lot of characters. I don't think that those characters were all particularly interesting.
That's fair.
Some of them were, some of them I thought were not.
Name names.
I think Spider-Man, that Tom Holland did a great job. I actually have a lot of hope for the next Spider-Man movie.
For the first time in my life, I'm actually looking forward to Spider-Man movie.
Absolutely. I think it's the first time that they got the right amount of sort of sarcasm, quippiness. Where
he's annoying but not insufferable.
Yeah, exactly.
Where Tobey Maguire was like, you want to punch him in the face.
Yeah, absolutely. He was too nerdy.
Yeah.
You know? And then Andrew Garfield was just a cool emo.
Yeah.
Which, that's not Spider-Man, so I don't care.
Missed the point.
So, I thought that Tom Holland did a great job as Spider-Man. But I thought that the scene with him, with Tony Stark coming to visit him, so shoehorned in. I thought it was terrible.
That's a weird scene, and it's kind of uncomfortable. Yeah. Because the thing, like the whole Marissa Tomei casting that May thing, I thought that's nice. They're not like being obliged to get like an old woman to do it. They can cast like whoever, and that's fine. Yeah. But then they have to draw so much attention to it.
Make Aunt May hot again. Come on.
Which, again, I don't mind them doing that, but I just felt like it was creepy having Robert Downey Jr. come in there and just hit on her endlessly. And I go, wow, look at this woman who's like in her, like, her 40s? She's shockingly hot for her age. I say, like a 55-year-old man. It's so weird. Yeah. And even just, having this, like, midlife crisis person in a teenager's room. Trying to recruit him into an army. It's really, the connotations are not good.
No.
They're not good.
And I think especially, it just seems strange with Tony earlier in the film, considering that he was so guilty about having killed
a child
young
dying,
people.
yes.
Yeah. Are you that guilty? Or are we supposed to actually just not like you very much?
Yeah.
Like, I'm not sure which. So, yeah, it's stuff like that I didn't really like very much. I think as well that the Vision and Scarlet Witch and Hawkeye plot, that was poor. Because Scarlet Witch is the most powerful character. And to have Hawkeye come in and take her hand, be like, come on, we're going to skip away. It's like, Hawkeye, honestly, anyone else could take you out so easily. Go home. You know, your family loves you. They don't want to see you die. So
fair.
Just things like that. They just really irked me because it just doesn't make any sense. Don't send the least powerful in to rescue the most powerful character. But, you know, that kind of stuff
You've kind of
happened.
sold me at that point now that you said
All right.
it. Yeah, all right. That's,
And I think it's quite interesting that you're saying that the airport scene was something out of another movie. Because for me, I had no stake in that.
I think no one did really. I think it's kind of, if anything, if there's a major problem with the movie aside from Downey Jr. just being really lecherous and weird in that one scene, I think it is that there's no stakes because they intentionally make there to be no stakes.
I guess so, but then it's like, well, then why put it in?
Because it looked amazing.
Yeah, and actually that's kind of one of the things, like, not obviously, I think it's good when movies look good, but I think to put something in purely as fan service is not a great idea. Or at least, I don't think. It's like, it's not something that appeals to me, because I would prefer actual stakes to be at stake.
Well, I feel like the stakes, I think they kind of tricked you with that one. I think the actual stakes come in the last fight, when it's just the three of them in the Soviet bunker. Because that's the moment I thought someone could actually die here. I wasn't sure if they were going to kill someone off or not, because, like, you kind of know Iron Man can't die because he's contracted for the next Spider-Man movie, and if you've read Civil War comics, you're going to know what happens with Cap. So like, that could happen, or Bucky. I felt like there was genuinely a moment of I wasn't sure if someone could die in that point. That's their stake. That's good. And that was kind of the point when everyone sort of let loose, because the motivations, I'm not sure if we're spoiling it or not. I don't want to, but I feel like we kind of are anyway. Let's just spoil it. Right. So the motivations all come out at the very end, when it's Tony basically trying to avenge his dead, like in Batman Superman, his dead mother. You've seen those memes, right? Yes. Which is very surprising, because there's so many comparison points between Batman, Superman, and this.
Yeah.
That the fact that dead parents got involved, dead mothers got involved in the final fight scene between the billionaire and the super soldier, or the symbol of America, was very amusing. But yeah, so like the airport sequence, you have like dialogue between Hawkeye and Black Widow, where it's like, we're not going to hurt each other because we're best friends, so let's just fight for the crack. So yeah, there can't be stakes there. Whereas you get to the end and it's suddenly like, oh, you hid the fact that your best friend murdered my parents from me. I will now go ballistic at you. Like, this is good. See, I don't mind. Okay, I will agree with you. The fan service thing can really go either way for me, because there's stuff in Batman Superman that was awful and shouldn't have been in there for fan service reasons. I feel like the airport fight, at the end of the day, we're at a point now where superhero films kind of have some level of respect as films, and we're kind of used to them being a quote unquote about things and having real human drama in them. Whereas that airport scene is devoid of all of that. But at the same time, they're still comic book films, and I feel like if you're going to have a Civil War plot line where it's everyone fighting everyone, you need something like that. And there's no way to have a Paul Rudd giant man sequence in any film with dramatic weight, and that makes sense. But as a bit of visual spectacle, that was amazing. His crazy man eyes as he changed were the best thing I've seen all year. Yeah. And I just loved the airport fight. It was a glorious bit of just indulgent confection. Yeah,
I will agree. I thought Ant-Man was brilliant. And yeah, Paul Rudd is amazing. Yes, no question. Did you find the sort of use of shaky cam at all distracting? I know it wasn't actually that bad in the airport scene. It was more the first half of the film when there was less CGI going on. I found myself very distracted.
It didn't really jump out to me. No, I can't think of what scenes had it.
It was probably at the worst in the opening scene, which is possibly trying to be sort of a Paul Greengrass kind of espionage sequence of like them chasing these guys down. I suppose it's obviously an overt exaggeration to say you can't understand what's going on, but at the same time, I was kind of going like, why is someone so unconfident in their own work that they need to rely this much on shaky cam to get through it, you know?
Yeah, okay.
So I don't know, like obviously if it didn't affect your viewing, it didn't affect your viewing, that's fine. Just to me, I think sometimes in the Avengers movies and the spin-offs, I just find shaky cam, it makes me think like, why are they doing this so
it's
much?
Lazy,
yeah. So it annoyed me. That was another thing that sort of took away from my enjoyment.
When I watched it again, I'll look out for that, because it didn't occur to me, but now that I think about it, I did remember thinking that, like, I loved the fight at the end, and I loved some of the middle of the action sequences. I did think that opening bit was kind of the weakest action sequence.
Okay,
Maybe that's subconsciously why. So yeah, that's really fair. In terms of like other smaller points, this is probably the best Downey Jr.'s been since like Iron Man 1. Because I feel like Age of Ultron, for me, made me just despise that character. I was like, this is just a one-dimensional kind of quip-dispensing horrible human being. Whereas here, they tried to give him actual emotions and motivations. And aside from the one thing you discussed, where he was awful, I think he was really good. I actually found it quite compelling, and he got to like act properly, I feel.
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, it was definitely an improvement in Iron Man 3, where sort of his terrible emotional turmoil is him stopping to, I don't know, take a few breaths every now and again.
That's how panic attacks work, right? PTSD.
Yeah.
It's that manageable.
I suppose that is true.
Well, no, it's not, though. Like, it'd be far more debilitating than that. But yeah.
But, he did a good job, definitely. I think it was a shame Chris Hemsworth wasn't in it, because he's always fun.
But I was okay with him not being there. Same Ruffalo. I'm not like I like the Hulk fine, but I'm glad he wasn't there. Kind of. I mean, my personal favorite cameo was Dean Pelton.
Yes.
Jim Rash's cameo as just playing Dean Pelton again.
Absolutely.
That was so unexpected and so glorious.
Yes, that was nice. And yeah, I think he should have been in it more, essentially.
Oh, he should be in everything more. I want his own spin-off film. Just Dean Pelton doing all things is all, yes. But we didn't actually discuss Martin Freeman yet. Martin Freeman's in this for no reason. He has let's say a top 4 minutes of screen time. He has a dreadful American accent. Okay, it's not even that bad of an accent. It's just so distracting coming from his mouth.
I think so,
And he didn't. I'm convinced he's only here because it's one of those kind of smaller characters they can bring back if they need to. And I feel like he won't show up again until probably either Doctor Strange or Infinity War, just so they can have him on screen, Ben Cumberbatch, and make some kind of vague Sherlock joke. I think that's the only reason he was cast, because that character was nothing.
Absolutely.
Didn't need to be there.
No.
The only other point I kind of think, the villains are always weak in these movies. It's just a thing about Marvel. I thought this was a good one, but they sort of messed it up by calling him Zemo.
Okay,
because the whole point of that character, I thought, was that he was someone who lost his whole family in Sokovia, and then like he is just some random guy that took down the Avengers basically in revenge. So by calling him Zemo, like if you know any kind of comic books, you know Zemo is like this kind of Nazi lord fellow that you're waiting for him to make more sense as a bad guy, whereas the point was he wasn't really a bad guy. He was just this grief-stricken husband and father. So I think if they'd called it, the point should have been that he was just anybody. He was no one. I think it was weird calling him Zemo, because that was a good performance, I thought, by Daniel Bruhl. Very, very kind of understated, and that character motivation made a lot of sense. I thought he actually was pretty good as a villain, but they shouldn't have called him Zemo.
Yeah, I actually feel like, I know I won't spoil this because we might as well leave something unspoiled, but I thought that the events of the movie actually made him more of a hero than anything, which is
really
weird. Yeah. I don't know, should I say it?
Yeah, no, go for it. I'm intrigued to know what you mean now.
Just like the fact that he killed the rest of the super soldiers. Like he eliminated a huge threat from the world, which I think was a misstep for the movie, because surely these super soldiers could have been the setup for a future movie, but now they're all dead.
I'm glad they're dead, because I felt like when the airport battle was finished and they were like, right, we have to go to the Soviet base to fight the army of other winter soldiers. Like, ugh. You'd almost avoided doing the trap you do every movie, where it's just, the car is fighting a faceless army of dudes.
Okay.
I was like, oh, they're all dead. Good.
No, that is fair enough, but I mean, it wouldn't have to be for the next movie or anything. Like, it could be just some time down the line. Like, true. Some threat that, could potentially undermine them at some point. And the other thing about them being able to take down nations in a single night.
Yes.
If they're out there somewhere, well, who knows what might happen sometime. Now we know nothing will happen anytime.
You've kind of sold me on that idea now, yeah. I feel like if they'd done that, though, people would be mad, because of we set up these winter soldiers and then just released them off screen, and then they didn't show. I think the fact they were killed at least was something resembling closure.
I suppose so, but it just sort of makes Zemo he actually did the world a big favour.
No, you're right with that. Yeah, and also if you sort of think the Avengers are sort of a negative force, and again he did a good thing there too, sort of.
It seems like a thing that was easy for the screenwriters to do at the time, but sure, they can still bring them back to life. Like, that's happened dozens of times, you know, there's hope.
Yeah. There isn't, I mean, the marathons are very bad for death. No one stays dead.
Exactly, yeah. So.
Which is why I'm glad they didn't even bother trying to fake it out with the roadie thing, where it's just, no, he's just paralyzed. But he was paralyzed for like 10 seconds, then he got robot legs, he's fine. So, whatever. Also, Don Cheadle looked dreadful in this film. He looked like a million years old.
Yeah, it was a little bit worrying, all right.
It was, wasn't it? Because I think he's probably the same age as Downey Jr. Downey Jr. he's looking old, but he looks, you know, acceptable.
Yeah.
But no, he looked dreadful. When the helmet went down the first time, I was like, oh dear God, who like sucked all the moisture out of his face? He's just this weird husk of a man. I think we've discussed this long enough. Civil War, from me, solid thumbs up. From you, wavering thumbs up. Yeah. Next up, we shall talk about Bad Neighbours 2, another sequel that I think we actually were far more in agreement on.
Yes. Think so.
Bad Neighbours 1 was a weird film. I remember when it was coming out, I saw the trailers and went, ugh. Then saw some reviews that went, no, it's actually a lot more subversive than you're thinking. I think the trailers are intentionally misselling it. And I was like, okay, watched it, loved it. Efron is great. Seth Rogen is great, kind of playing the grown-up version of his own characters from previous films.
Yes.
Rose Byrne. Is Rose Byrne, isn't it?
It is Rose Byrne, yes.
I always get her and Emily Blunt confused for some reason.
Oh, really?
I don't know why, because they don't look necessarily alike, really. But
sorry, that's really interesting, because my cousin mixed them up in Bad Neighbours 2.
Oh, yeah?
So there you go, there's a reason for it.
Yeah, because I remember talking about Spy to someone, and I called Rose Byrne Emily Blunt, and they were like, what? I was like, yeah, she's in that movie. No, she's not. Anyway,
there you go.
Rose Byrne, great. Still, I think still the peak of her career is probably Spy. That role was amazing, but yeah, she was still great in this. Zac Efron, I really think Zac Efron, I'm surprised after Bad Neighbours 1 he didn't get more anything really. He's just still doing sort of weird comedies on the side. I thought he'd been given like a Marvel franchise by now, or at least some shitty action series.
Well, my theory, which I just made up right now,
That's
is
excellent.
that I don't understand how he acquired Alec Baldwin's voice. But I suspect that maybe until he gives it back, Alec Baldwin is like holding him back from getting any bigger roles. Are
you saying Alec Baldwin is secretly wearing Zac Efron like a person suit and just getting younger roles? Okay.
Yes.
That had not occurred to me. I need to listen to their voices side by side now. That's weird and disturbing. But anyway, so Bad Neighbours 1 I felt was a very complete film. Like, it had an ending, it had a message, it had a point.
Yes.
When they announced the sequel, I was like, oh no, because the film like ends on a really good note of like Efron realizing that he can't stay young forever, and like Seth Rogen's character kind of growing up a bit, and like that's really odd for this movie to have this sort of quite tight sort of narrative. Sequel gets announced. It's Chloe Moretz, who I love, as the villain this time for a sorority. Rather, it's like it's such intentionally lazy screenwriting.
Yeah.
But Bad Neighbours 2, same plot as the last one. Great. Possibly funnier than the first one. At least as funny. I really loved it. I was shocked just how, even more so than the first one, progressive and subversive it was. There was just some really seriously on point satire of like the whole issue with like black deaths by the police in America, about just rape culture, about depictions of women. It was I was shocked. I was really impressed with this film on just that level.
One thing that I also really liked about it is it has really nice messages about like being friends with your spouse, which I know maybe sounds very corny, but as in like I think there's maybe a moment in the first movie where they sort of have an argument, Seth Rogen and Rose Byrne, but yes, but like it's literally they realize nearly straight away like they're stronger together, and that's nice. I think it's just nice that in these films it's sort of like they are best friends, and there isn't anything about the like the ball and chain or
like the nagging wife archetype, or
the overly stupid husband. You know, Seth Rogen's fairly stupid, but they both are, so like they work for each other. And so it's just like, look, marriage doesn't have to be a terrible hardship. You know, you can have fun and you can be happy. And that's something that I think.
What?
Yeah.
But even the way though, I totally agree with that. Actually, I hadn't thought of that. That's actually totally true. But even the way like usually in these kind of films, you might get the moment where the Seth Rogen character, which you do get, is sort of accosted by bikini-clad women and like, stop, you're making them sexier, and then like with a big smile on his face saying, I don't like this at all. But then you actually get the reverse of that scene, which you rarely get in films, where she's just basically, Zac Efron like says, by the way, it's something on the lines of, by the way, if you ever want to, I'm totally up for sex with you. And she's like, okay. But it never becomes this big sticking point between them, and they're both sort of accepting the fact that they're married and they love each other, but they're also like, well, we're still like sexual beings. We're still sexual, like people. We fancy other people. Of course we do.
Yeah,
absolutely. It's really weirdly progressive.
Yeah, Yeah, absolutely.
And the whole message of, I think, I like the fact that they, even at the end of it, they're still basically teenagers, like the two of them, and they're like, look, you're faking it the entire time. Adult life is just faking it, which I think we're both realizing in our 20s is totally true.
Yes.
And it's a weird movie. I can't get over just how good it was and how but it still had all of the really stupid like dick jokes.
True,
and like some really solid top-notch gross out humor, like the baby leg hanging out of her.
Oh,
yes. Oh god, just awful. Or the Zac Efron just pulls out his balls.
Yes.
And everyone just screams in horror.
Yes.
Brilliant. Fantastic. Loved it.
That was there were a few moments where it's sort of like, what was the reasoning behind this? He was doing this dance to like take
to distract the
away
women
from the thing.
in a really
But honestly, it's serious. Surely this is something he at least has theoretical knowledge of. He's
I guess not.
But like, why did he think that was a good idea? I mean, it's hilarious, but it just makes no sense.
I guess it's just going to invert the whole gender thing of if that was a female like doing that dance to distract men and she got like any part of her anatomy, it would be like it would increase the thing. So I guess he's thinking it must work the way around, but then it becomes a thing of no, women don't. It's obviously not true for everyone, but women on a whole don't seem to view men the same way, and it's just like even when he does it, I forget who says like, "Oh no, he showed balls."
Yeah,
like they knew it was wrong. I forget who says it. Was Zac, or was it Seth Rogen or Rose Byrne? It doesn't matter. But it's very funny.
No, it's great.
I still love that moment when I forget the other actor's name or the character's name, the other father that's friends with Seth Rogen.
Oh yeah.
And in the restaurant he says something about men's rights.
Oh, yeah, men's
and puts his fist up for a fist bump. So I was like, "Fuck you!"
Yeah, get away from me.
It's great. It was so
great.
good, and I love the ending because it just like at full speed runs towards a conclusion.
Yeah,
wraps up every single plot point in the neatest bow it can. And just ends. That was beautiful. Just they get a sack of money at the end. Like when your financial woes are finished, it's like everyone just falls into the perfect job somehow. Yeah. It's hilarious. It's a top-notch comedy. It's a great piece of satire, and it's strangely, bizarrely progressive. I would recommend it to everyone. Maybe.
Just one thing, actually, before we move on. The fact that you called Chloe Moretz the villain interested me, because as much as I think
she's not the villain,
true,
really. Ostensibly for the trailer, I mean, she's the villain. In the film itself, she's just another shockingly nuanced character that exists with conflicts and motivations.
Absolutely.
But bizarre. Writing of characters.
Absolutely. That's what I was going to say, was that it's actually a film where you want everyone to succeed equally. Like, I genuinely can't think of any other film where there isn't at least some bad guy you're supposed to dislike in some way. Everyone here you identify with, you want them to succeed at whatever their goal is. How many movies do that? It's great.
And again, we're discussing the sequel to Bad Neighbours, and that's like, it's so weird. You're totally right. The Chloe Moretz thing, I was again impressed because I love her as an actress, but I can't take her seriously as an adult. Mm-hmm. She still looks like a 12-year-old, and it's weird seeing her like just swear. Well, not weird. Well, she started off swearing. It's not really that one, but just talking about like drugs and sex and stuff like it. It's like, oh, she's 12. Oh no, she's like 21 now, isn't she?
Yeah.
But no, I totally agree. Like initially, she's sort of villainized-ish, but by the end, it's very much like I don't want her to fail, but I don't want them to lose their house, and it's weird, and then it all just. I'm impressed they found a way to contrive an ending where everyone wins.
True. Which
is, I suppose, on one level bad screenwriting, but I think this film deserved a happy ending.
Absolutely, and there's nothing wrong with aspirational film,
Yeah, no, totally. I suppose from happy times to less happy times, let's talk about Green Room.
All right.
So, Green Room. I have not seen Blue Ruin.
No, me neither.
See, I've heard people say the Green Room. If you've seen Green Room first, it's not as because Blue Ruin came out and was very like lauded and talked about a lot. I've heard people say if you've seen that one, you will kind of see a lot coming in Green Room. That a lot of his tropes kind of become apparent. But ostensibly this one is I'm using that word a lot today. Ostensibly, it's a good word. Green Room, how to describe the plot? Anton Yelchin is the lead in a very hipster metal band who don't exist on social media, which I assume was just a plot point they put in so that they'd be isolated, but it still felt very like, ugh. They go play some neo-Nazi bar run by Patrick Stewart, who's still British for some reason, get trapped in the titular Green Room, a murder has taken place, and then it's just an hour and a half of real bad times for the audience, for the characters. It's a deeply upsetting film to watch. I would not recommend it hungover, which I did. Not a good time. You've started this one.
All right. I have to say I liked it, but I don't think I liked it as much as some of the praise it's been getting. There were some great ideas, I think, about like them being stoners, being kind of losers who pretty much can't get up before 12 in the day. And then obviously they get caught back in a green room when a murder's taken place, and they're basically, since they are the only witnesses, they're being kept in there against their will. And they sort of realize eventually that they're going to have to fight their way out. But they're not very good at fighting. So I can't remember the name of the girl who joins them, the actress.
Imogen Poots.
Imogen Poots, who does a really good job.
I didn't know it was her in the credits.
Yeah, no, me neither. I was like, who?
Because I love her.
I recognised that nose. Who is it? That was what I was thinking the whole time.
Because that actually makes this is a weird, if anyone saw the remake, which they didn't, of Fright Night, that's a nice reunion of Anton Yelchin and Imogen Poots again.
Man, I hadn't even thought of that. Wow. But sorry.
So relevant to what
so Imogen Poots says, like, well, we're not fighters. We don't really know what to do. Let's play. And they sort of come up with these ideas for like, how are they going to get out of this place, but without using sort of conventional war methods, I guess. But like, for my money, what they did was actually pretty conventional and pretty much what you would do if you could. You know. Like,
are you talking about the very end here? Like,
I'm talking about the very end. Yes.
Okay.
Whereas I thought that they were going to do this while high. I thought that would be really cool.
Oh, that actually would have made a lot of sense, because that would have at least explained that they had like heightened pain thresholds and whatnot, rather than just the fact. I didn't actually get how any of them were still moving by the last act, because they'd all been so horribly injured by then.
That's it, yeah.
I kind of had a similar problem in that, because I know when Blue Ruin came out, everyone was like, "Oh, it's so like naturalistic, and it's the most kind of realistic revenge movie you'll see, because it's very like, it's not Hollywoody, and it's very depressing and upsetting, and it's just this is like the cost of revenge, and it's just no one gets out of it, and no one gets happy about it, but it still happens, and blah blah blah." So I felt like going into this one, I was like, oh, it'd be very kind of realistic and sort of naturalistic, and I felt this felt very screenplay to me. It felt very like overwritten in places, and I actually hated that whole "let's play" line, because I was like, oh, they're gonna have some like contrived plan now. I actually honestly thought it would end with them burning down the meth lab and just killing themselves in the process, because I was like, that was the only out I could see for them.
Sure, yeah.
Then when it gets to that bit when he just shaves his head and is screaming about Ragnarok, and it's like, what is this? It's a different movie then.
Yeah.
Like, admittedly, that's one blip that just gets them to the actual final sort of movement of it, which is all fine again. I just think that one moment is really strange and doesn't fit the film, and if they had been high, that would have made more sense. So I think you've kind of found and solved the one big problem with the movie.
Oh, good.
Otherwise, performances all pretty good. Like Patrick Stewart, it's nice seeing him in this role. I was kind of sad there was no big speechy moment. He was very low key, which I kind of appreciate more almost. But I still sort of was waiting for him to give a big rousing speech to his little Nazis. Or just do something kind of more shouty or theatrical, but it was very just muted and sort of monotone, and like it was still creepy, and he was still like a great presence, but yeah, weird sort of disappointing waste almost.
Yeah, I guess so. Like, there wasn't really anyone for him to play against.
No, it's like a door basically.
Yes.
I will say, I think they did gore very well in this, in that like it wasn't really shown up front, and you kind of quick cuts of it, like that. Oh, the bit with the hand was just
that
the
was
worst thing I've seen in a long time. But again, if they'd settled on that and shown it, and it's like full like depiction, I think it would have been less powerful. It was the fact that you just saw like quick shots of his hand like hanging off his arm. Like, that's just really disgusting and horrible, and it's a weird one. Like, would you recommend it to people I don't know? Because I feel like there's certain people I know, like me, that like upsetting films. Like, I'd recommend it to them, but even then, it's not.
Oh, like, to be honest, in a way, as much as like I thought it was a good film, I honestly didn't feel that it did anything that different or that out. You know, like, there wasn't anything that it did to really differentiate itself from similar types of movies.
I think I agree with that, yeah.
So, I mean, I kind of feel like, am I missing something? Because lots of people are giving this 5 stars and just loving it, and it's decent, but it's not earth-shattering.
No, I actually agree with that fully. I think... I mean, you could make the argument. It's probably the best version of that kind of story they could do. It's not groundbreaking necessarily, but it is like kind of the perfectly made version of it. Well, not perfectly, but like one of the best made versions of that kind of nihilistic revenge, I guess you'd say, storylines. I did think it was good. I totally agree. I don't really understand the earth shattering praise it's getting. All right. Fine. Yeah. I like seeing Yelchin. I like seeing Poots. I like seeing Stewart. It's good. It is all good.
And Alia Shawkat, is that her name?
From Arrested Development, maybe, yes.
Yeah, she sort of is getting typecast, but I still like her.
Yeah, she keeps showing up in the last year or so in like these kind of supporting roles.
Yeah.
What else was she in, actually?
She was in Final Girls, playing pretty much
Haven't
the
seen
same
that yet.
role. Okay.
Curious to have it. The trailer didn't really sell me on it.
It's not great. Like,
okay.
see it if that's the kind of movie you like. Don't otherwise.
I suppose we'll move on to something we definitely have slightly more differing opinions on. This one is actually, I think, kind of come and gone from cinemas, but Midnight Special, which I really hadn't intended seeing, and I can't recall what the reason I did see it was. Actually, it might have been you. It could have been you. I don't know. It was someone said something about it being really good, because I remember I saw the trailer.
Okay.
And the trailer did nothing for me. I was actually initially very intrigued by the premise of the trailer when it's just this is Michael Madsen. Oh god,
what is his name? Michael...
Shannon,
yes.
When it's like a Shannon like having kidnapped a child and you're not really sure why, and I'm like, that's really intriguing. I'm quite into this premise, and then like a minute into the trailer, he's Superman as a child. That's great. Bored now, but saw the film for whatever reason, and aside from that, I think the ending is kind of balls, but I don't know how else you end that kind of film, so whatever. I think it was great. Sarah, you didn't.
Yes, I thought that the first half was very intriguing. I really liked a lot of it. I actually thought in particular, I don't know his name, the guy who comes along for the ride, basically.
Yeah.
I thought his character was so interesting. I was trying to figure out what has happened that he would be prepared to like give up everything for this guy who he doesn't really know that well, and this guy's son. And the fact that first thing we see him do is like be prepared to shoot a guy dead.
Like a cop, yeah.
What is going on? I really admired this guy, but I was also really scared because it's sort of like, okay, it could be any reason. So what's going on? You know, like I thought that the build-up was really great. What is this kid doing that he's got everyone interested in him, and he's been kidnapped and he's been kept in weird religious cults and like all this kind of stuff. And like I thought that was really great, but I just felt once we were getting answers, the answers were kind of wishy-washy and just not very compelling.
That I would totally agree with. I do think, because the first half of it has this really kind of creepy vibe to it, I think. Because the opening, it's so ambiguous what's going on. Like, you get these really kind of slow, and not even that well explained. I think that was, I know we'll get to this in a minute, you hate this about it, I really love about it. That it kind of makes you work for the plot. Like, it gives you all the necessary pieces, but it does not give you the order to put them in. And you kind of have to work it out yourself. And I like the way it's just... Here's these two guys, they kidnapped a child, they're going to murder cops if they have to. There's some religious cult that wants a kid back. Is it their kid? Is it one of their like actual children? Then they get ready by the FBI. It's all very confusing but really intriguing, and it kind of reminded me of like It Follows or True Detective Season 1. It was just this nice unsettling thing, and then I agree, once it kind of hits sort of daytime and once there's actual answers coming in, it's very conventional, and the ending, I mean, I don't know how else you end these kind of movies, like, unless it's in a really ambiguous midpoint where the story doesn't really resolve. It has to resolve the way it did, I suppose, and it's just a bit bleh, seeing this the alien city in the sky and then the kid leaving, and I don't care. Yeah,
but I mean, like, in a way, I think if you're not up to the challenge of like, coming up with a satisfying, whatever satisfying means, conclusion to this movie, like, are you up to the challenge of taking it on in the first place?
That's a fair criticism.
Like, for me, that's why like Lost doesn't work. You can come up with amazing ideas and cool special effects and whatever, but if you have no follow through, you might as well not have tried in the first place, really.
That I'd agree with. I think I want to bring up the point that, because I know we actually discussed it before in our real lives, that
which we have.
Because I think it kind of stems from like our different backgrounds. Like, you're more kind of literature and like theater and stuff, was your kind of background, whereas I'm more like straight film studies, so it's a lot more, well, it's kind of writing too, but it's more visual stuff, and I think that's why I thought the show don't tell approach was really refreshing. Like, it was so non-handholdy, whereas you found like needlessly obtuse and kind of in your face, and like, that's really interesting, because I prefer that there was very little dialogue to explain a lot of this stuff, whereas I can kind of see your frustration with it, but by all means, please argue.
Well, sorry, just that you say that, I think it is a good point in that I am very narratively driven.
Yeah.
As much as I think visuals are important, they are secondary to my interests.
Yeah, sure.
Which is why, like, I realized that's why a film can be loved or hated by different people, and like that, it's entirely valid. Not one argument is more valid than
Are
the
you
other.
saying objective reviews don't exist? How dare you suggest such a thing?
Can't say this here; it will explode. I would wonder: does the director themselves or the writers actually know what the answer to their questions they've put are? Because if they don't know, I don't think it's fair for them to hoist the questions onto other people.
Okay.
You know, they don't have to answer their question within their film, but they have to have their own answers. And I think sometimes with this kind of film, they haven't really thought about it.
Yeah.
And like I think that's sort of the problem. You know, like if there isn't an answer somewhere, whether we as an audience get it or not, well then it is just a big load of stuff thrown at the screen, hoping some of it will stick. I don't know.
No, that's a fair point. My problem is more that they had an answer to these things, but the answers weren't very interesting. I think...
Yeah, there's that as well, actually.
I just thought the first hour was so promising. There was such this great, sort of very organic layering in of like exposition in ways that wasn't at all showy, and it was very subtle, and it felt kind of like a Stephen King book in that it was sort of goofy genre stuff, but it was taking itself very seriously, and it was very kind of violent, and it... Yeah. Like a lot of Stephen King books, it kind of resolved in a weird, disappointing, wishy-washy kind of way.
Very true, yeah.
But the direction was really good. There's some really gorgeous shots. There's one bit when it looks like it's they're on a road, but then like the camera just suddenly just shoots upwards and it's clearly like a helicopter shot, and it goes over a forest, and there's some great direction. There's a really good score. Actually, the performances are great. The kid was really good.
Yeah.
Kids in movies are very hard to get right, and that kid was very likable. I know you kind of hated the fact that it was just E.T.
A little bit,
E.T.
yes.
in boy form, is that what you said?
Yes, he's back in boy form. I think possibly to rein my arguments into rather than like, ooh, this is what I think about cinema in general, I will say some specifics, which would be that Adam Driver did a good job. His character was not needed.
That's what I was going to say. You could actually cut out his entire subplot and it would lose nothing.
And that is a bad
That's
thing.
bad writing. Yeah. That's not even bad writing, it's bad editing. If anything.
Yes.
But,
what annoyed me as well is the conceit that the boy can show you something and then you will just believe him. I didn't think that was good. I mean, I understand that...
Explain further.
So one of the boy's superpowers is that he can sort of... It's never even explained, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but that he can sort of transmit his thoughts to you through some sort of light. He shines light from his eyes to yours or something.
Oh, yeah.
And that by doing this, he can show the future or something that you really
like too
desire.
much knowledge or something.
Yeah, something.
Like that.
It's never really explained. And so he does this several times during the movie, and the person he transmits to then follows him unquestioningly. And that, for me, that is just, how are we going to get this guy from A to B? Oh, yeah, well, let's just have him magic himself there. Let's not actually worry about, like, actually convincing people. He's just able to magic people to do things for him. And that, for me, I'm like, yeah, I'm okay if that's one of his powers, but that, to me, is really boring and lazy.
It's boring. Okay, I hadn't thought of it that way at all, but because I can read that as he's almost like a living drug in that he can show you these things, but you always want more, and that's why he kind of followed them, because he's like, we need this guy to follow us, then just like let the kid do the weird eye thing, and then suddenly that guy will. It's like a knowledge drug or whatever, like you were saying, he shows you like what you desire most or something. It's something like that. That's the way I thought it was anyway, because again with the whole like religious cult thing around him,
oh definitely,
the way they revere the child, I always assumed there was something like that, because again it's left very ambiguous. That's a point where I would actually agree with your previous point now that you've said it about them not having answers. I think that would have been nice to at least hint towards what's going on there, because again like we just said, like you and me had very different views on what that meant, the whole eye power thing.
Absolutely.
So something a bit more concrete there would have been nice. I said the Adam Driver thing really pisses me off. I don't really like Adam Driver. Everyone else seems to. He's fine. He's fine. But because he wouldn't have been big enough when this was being shot, I wouldn't have thought to have justified having him in there. Like that character really could have been entirely lost.
Yeah.
And it would have lost nothing in the film. It's very weird. Because it's a pretty short film to start with. Like it's like what 90, 80, or probably 100 minutes maybe.
There you go. Yeah.
I still think it's worth watching. As someone who never really cared for E.T. that much, even as a child, I prefer this slightly grittier version of E.T. There's some nice kind of almost Exorcist moments in there too. I like the bit when he brings in the satellite. That's pretty great. Yeah, no, I think it's incredibly well shot, incredibly well scored, very well acted, by and large quite well written movie. with some fat that needs trimming, but on the whole, it's top 10 end of year material, I think, for me.
Oh, okay.
Maybe. Along with Bad Neighbours 2, bizarrely. Any closing remarks on Midnight Special? Before I let you loose on something else?
Yeah. It was something I was going to say earlier. I don't know if this is too long a thing to say, but thinking about it more, the whole light transmission, it's sort of a little bit of a plot hole, possibly, because surely he could have used it on everyone, and then it would have solved his problems.
He would have been too tired?
He could have been, yeah. He would have, yeah. No, I suppose my closing remarks for that film would be probably not in my top 10.
Fair enough.
Yeah, some very good acting, some great direction, some great visuals, but just a great premise was just spoiled by very bland ideas. And yeah, that's about it.
Fair enough. Well, the final review of the day is something I have not seen, but which I know you just hated so much I couldn't not let you rant about it.
Yay.
As a tradition with this podcast, if one of us really hates the movies, i.e. me or Brooklyn, rants happen. So, Sarah, what is the film and why do you hate it?
It's Everybody Wants Some, but in fact, nobody wants any. Even though apparently, there we go. This is Richard Linklater's most recent movie. It is concerning itself with a young man who is going off to college for the first time. He's a baseball scholarship student and he's in Texas University, going there in the fall of 79. So it's all very, very much, what's the word?
It's period piece kind of.
Period piece, exactly. Yeah. It takes some of the sort of stuff Linklater does quite well. He tries to get a conventional narrative and fill this with like this. Nothing is going to ever happen because I am a master of what it is like to be alive. So you just watch my movies and don't worry about plot or characterization. You just agree with me and everything is really good. It seems to be his idea. It's just so annoying. I think it's based loosely on his own life because he himself went to college as a baseball scholar student. Apparently, college for him was just like hanging around with very boring people, doing very boring normal college things, and not trying very hard at anything. And I'm sure he had a great time doing these things, but they're just so normal. There's nothing to say about them.
It's interesting because I feel like if this was I haven't seen it so I don't really know, but if this was like some kind of European art house film, I feel like these kind of slice of life quote unquote nothing happens movies are often quite talked up and quite revered, even though the few I've seen I haven't liked myself for the same reason I think you hate this one. But I wonder why this one seems so much more sort of irritating and arrogant and in your face for being about lazy layabout Americans.
Sure.
Is that maybe I don't know, it's because I mean I've heard a lot of good reviews about this one. I have heard some negativity. Yours has been the most vitriolic I've heard, which is not a bad thing. I didn't like Boyhood, so it's fine. But like, I saw Dazed and Confused once many years ago and didn't much care for it. But wasn't Dazed and Confused sort of the same thing, but people liked that one? Yeah,
that is actually sort of a good summation. The main difference is that Dazed and Confused follows groups of different people. There's the jocks and the nerds and the whatevers. The thing is that Richard Linklater, I think he's forgotten this now, but I think he maybe knew it at the time, that he's not very good at writing characters. Like he can write situations very well, but he can't really write characters. So by jumping between groups of people, he got enough stories going that you could look beyond the fact that every single one of his characters is essentially him spouting off about philosophy 101. In Dazed and Confused, you have some great personas. Like Matthew McConaughey. Yeah. You have these people putting on airs and saying, whereas I think in Everybody Wants Some, first of all, it's focusing on one group, which is like the handsome jocks who get everything they want all the time, which maybe that was his college experience, but it's kind of boring.
Yeah, there's no conflict there.
There is no conflict.
No challenge or arc or
It is just his philosophy characters over and over again. It's just the same characters with the same, basically with the same thoughts, the same personality. It's just there's like 12 of them, so it's kind of creepy.
Are you saying there's like a dark reading of this where it's a hive mind?
Yeah, I think so. Like I was actually thinking about it, and I think if I was to sort of like distill this movie to its essence,
Yes.
it's an apology for being popular, attractive layabouts.
That sounds like the worst thing I've ever heard and never want to see.
Yeah.
Because I saw the trailer for this and I was like, oh, Richard Linklater movie. Okay. I don't really love him to start with. And just the whole of the trailer, it was just these endless, just out of context scenes and like vignettes of just stuff happening with no clear idea what the plot was. Apparently there isn't one.
Yeah.
Why we should like these people, which apparently we shouldn't. It wasn't funny either. It was really just, it wasn't even cringy. It was this weird, inert, like nothingness.
Yeah.
That I had no reaction to aside from I don't want to see this. Yeah, it looked terrible.
Yeah. It's funny because I was thinking about it. I think that I do talk about it quite a lot, which kind of sounds like does she protest too much? But it is kind of ridiculous that all the characters are just really, really typically handsome. You know, it's like maybe that was what his experience of college was. I don't know, but the only characters who are less good looking are there's two. Okay, to be fair, there's two sort of slightly tubby guys in the main group, which I'm pretty sure they're there so that like normal people can be like, oh, they let normal people in too. We're in. But pretty much the two weirdest people are the one guy who tries too hard. He's actually just so obsessed with success that it's nearly like his body is just this wiry frame of creepy muscles. Like, whereas the rest of them are sort of nicely beefed up. He's just this scary ball of energy. I think the movie is basically trying to say, like, look, if you try too hard, you're going to be a freak.
The more you talk about this, the more I want to see it for these weird, subtle horror elements that I want to see an essay written about. Just, this is kind of sounding more intriguing the more you go on about it. I still don't want to see it because I know I'll hate it.
Okay.
But I think you found a through line of something worth talking about.
Yeah, well, I mean, the other thing that I haven't even brought up, which is actually really interesting about the movie, is just the amount of homoeroticism that's going on.
Okay. Yeah.
And I mean, from what I understand, I think Linklater said, like, yeah, obviously, you know, like he's not hiding it. But for a movie that is so much about sleeping with girls and sleeping with more girls, you know, there are baseball teams, a lot of ass slapping going on. Just, you know, I would be really happy for someone to watch the movie and be interested in it from like a gender studies point of view.
Yeah.
You know, like I think there definitely are things in there that are interesting, but I guess it's just that they're not the things that Linklater wanted them to be. I don't think he went in thinking like that he was ashamed of himself for not trying hard at baseball, which I think is sort of something that's going on in here. It's sort of weird.
It sounds pretty weird. It sounds like if Linklater is the dancing like Zac Efron in the film industry, this is his balls being displayed.
There we
no
go.
No one wants it.
There we go. Yeah.
So are there no points in the film you enjoyed? No small moments of levity or incongruity that you found amusing?
I wonder, are you talking about one moment in particular?
I just recall your interview and laughing quite a lot at the last paragraph.
Good. Well, there is one moment at a frat party, which there are many of, in which someone opens a fridge for a cat to jump out, and then the guy who's opened the fridge goes, "That's weird, a cat shouldn't be in there." And it was actually quite funny. I mean, I think it was also kind of strange that the funniest moment comes from such a contrived moment in and of itself, which is sort of indicative of the kind of movie it is. But having said that, a moment of catharsis was nice, you know?
A moment where the film felt like it was on your level of,
yes.
This is weird. Good job, movie.
Exactly.
Yes.
Yes.
I think there's little more to be said other than if you're given a choice between seeing any of the films from today, don't see that one.
Yes.
I mean, not even sure I'd say see Green Room necessarily. I think it is good, but yeah, if you had like one pick of today's reviewed films, what would your recommendation be?
Bad Neighbours 2, I think.
Yeah, I want to say Civil War, but I kind of think Bad Neighbours 2 is the right answer. I really do.
Yeah.
It's so weird. Like, this frat boy comedy sequel is... anyway, yeah. So that was that. I suppose we'll be back soon. Hopefully not 3 months again like the last time. Goodbye.